This example comes out of section 4.3, trig ratios. This question in part A asks us to find angles given their trig ratios, and we're told that sine of theta equals 0.7521. Definitely not a number I recognize, not something off the unit circle. This is definitely going to require a calculator. We'd be told in the question probably to round this to the nearest tenth of a degree or something to that effect. I know it's in degrees because the domain given is from 0 to 360 degrees. So whatever answer or answers I get will be in degrees. First thing I like to look at is the cast rule. The cast rule tells me where trig ratios are positive or negative. In this particular case, I'm looking for when is sine ratio going to be positive. I know in quadrant 1 as well as quadrant 2. So I'll be looking for a quadrant 1 answer and a quadrant 2 answer. My next job is to find the reference angle. To find the reference angle, I'm going to use my calculator and say inverse sine, second function sine, of 0.7521. To the nearest tenth, I get that answer to be 48.8 degrees, which for this particular question, 48.8 degrees in quadrant 1 is 48.8 degrees. So that is one of my answers. There happens to also be another answer, which will be, what does 48.8 degrees in quadrant 2 look like? So I'm going to have to say 180 minus 48.8 degrees, which equals 131.2 degrees. So there are two answers. If I tried to find more, I'd find that they'd be outside of the domain of 0 to 360, and so I have two answers that I'll have to give to this question. In part B, I'm asked a similar question, a couple of little differences. First of all, it's a tan question. It says tan theta equals 1 over root 3. We're given a different domain of negative pi to positive pi, and so that hints that it's in radians. And in this case, we would be told to come up with this answer in exact values, because of the fact that it turns out to be a number off the unit circle. I would start off potentially with the cast rule again, so I realize where my answers could be. Tangent is positive in quadrant 1 and in quadrant 3. So you may decide to do this question in degrees or in radians. If you're getting really comfortable with radians already, you may go directly to that. If you want to do it in degrees, I'll show you here how to do that, and then just at the end you would need to convert those answers into radians, since this is a radian question. So you could do it exactly as above and say, well, my reference angle is going to be inverse tan of 1 over root 3. And you will get an answer of 30 degrees when you do that. If you do it in radians, you're going to get pi over 6, but most calculators will give that as a decimal and hard to identify. So in quadrant 1, my answer is actually 30 degrees. So that will be one of my answers. I'll convert to radians in a second. Quadrant 3 is a little bit tricky, because quadrant 3, I'd be tempted to say, oh, 180 plus 30 degrees equals 210 degrees. It turns out that that's outside of the domain that's given, so I actually need to do the coterminal angle with that to say 210 minus 360 equals negative 150 degrees. So my two answers are 30 and negative 150. Converting them to radians hopefully has become second nature to you, and pi over 6 and negative 5 pi over 6 are the actual two answers that would fit, first of all, the equation that was given in the first place, as well as the domain that was required by this question.